I was trying to make 112 manga pages in 2 months. That's 2 pages a day. A manga page on average has 5 panels. That's 10 hours a day. And I still work too. Okay, planning my route back home. Fuck, I have to redraw this. The shading isn't working. The dialogue here makes no sense. Rewrite it. Now I'm falling behind schedule. I have to do 3 pages a day. Now 4. Now down to the final day. I have to insert word balloons on 30 pages. If I've spent 30 minutes a page, that's 15 hours. So I down a shot of coffee before collapsing onto bed. I wake up, get in a zone I've never felt before. I'm just typing and typing and typing. I click export my story file and then load it up the Medibang website. I'm so excited. I click upload file. 30 minutes go by. Still uploading. Another 30 minutes. Still uploading. Another 30 minutes. Still uploading. What the fuck kind of technology is this? Is it too high resolution? Is my internet not working? And boom. Deadline has passed. I felt this icy cold pain in the back of my spine, which I later find out is a sign of complete and total sleep exhaustion. And I was so frustrated, I punched the yogurt on the stove. And it exploded, leaving behind this me-shaped silhouette. And this thick glob of yogurt dripped off my hair. I silently, in my run-down apartment, wiped down my face and hair off from this blueberry yogurt paste. It was 1 a.m. and I was so geeked out and hopped up on coffee, I can't fall asleep. And I look at myself, so exhausted and covered in yogurt, wondering, what am I doing with my life? I then hobbled over into bed. I passed out in the dark. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't answer any phone calls. And I just wanted to disappear. All right? Hi, I'm Iman. And I've been making manga for the past 8 years. Now, in the last few months, I created a 112-page short story. I created another short story, 40 pages long, in less than a month. And I'm making this video. So, what happened? Well, let me tell you. Okay? Because I don't want you to go through what I went through. Okay? I don't want you to suffer like I did. So here are 4 principles that I use to make sure I am never behind schedule ever again. So here's what I realized, right? Over those 2 months, I was very, very motivated. I was very, very productive. But the second those 2 months were over, I immediately fall back into procrastinating and all of my bad habits, and I'm back to square one. And that's why for principle number 1, and it's number 1 for a reason, is to never, never, ever follow external goals or external validation. That doesn't mean you can't do cool things like enter competitions or things like that, right? But the motivation has to be internal. You can't be chasing the carrot all the time. And I know what you're thinking. Like, Iman, how is this practical? Why does it matter whether I'm internally or externally motivated? Well, let me tell you, my 112 pages, right? If I was internally motivated, I could have been working on those 112 pages for the entire year and made it really, really good and be way better off for it, right? Now, if what I'm saying is true, your productivity would be going up and then down and then up and then down and then up and then down again, right? And isn't that exactly the situation you find yourself in? Because if you're externally motivated, you're going to be motivated this way and then that way and then this way again. And it's a pretty crazy way to live, right? Like, you might end up with an apartment covered in yogurt by the end of it. You don't know, you know? And it's just like, oh, you're motivated, and then here you're procrastinating. And then, oh, look, you're motivated again. And then you get perfectionism. And pretty much every single bit of like the stereotypical bad habits of an artist, right? Like procrastination, perfectionism, like fear of failure. All these things are one and the same thing. It's an external locus of control, right? And it's not like I got rid of this at all by any means, right? But whenever this does happen, I know what it is. It's an external locus of control. It's all one thing, just one principle at play. All motivation's internal anyways. Like, think about it, right? When you're feeling motivated, is it coming from other people? Is it shooting out of them and into you? No, you are feeling that motivation inside of you, right? It's just that you sometimes give yourself the permission to feel motivated based on if someone else gives you the go ahead, And like, isn't that a stupid way to live? Which leads me to point number 2. Here's an example, right? Picture 2 people. One says they'll write 1 book this year. The other says they'll write 5 books this year. And they both write for 1 hour a day. Now, do you think one's gonna write more than the other? No, they're gonna write exactly the same. If anything, the one that says they're gonna write 5 books this year is more likely to fail because they're gonna keep comparing themselves to that goal and be demotivated constantly, right? So the goal never actually matters. It's actually what you do that makes the difference. It's pretty obvious when you put it like that, right? If you do 10 push-ups a day, you get 10 push-ups a day results. It doesn't matter how high you set your goals. The goals actually don't do anything. So goals don't matter. Make ambitious routines, not ambitious goals. Make the routine. Try it immediately. Check in with yourself. Did you do the routine? Yes or no? That immediate feedback is crucial. Focus on the day-to-day improvements and make it achievable and make them stick, right? Because again, we don't care about goals, right? So all we care about is sustained change in our routines and doing everything in our power to make it stick. So try and create the most ambitious routine for yourself for who you want to become like 1 year from now, right? Actually write this down, like what this person will be like, what their day-to-day is like. Immediately they wake up, they take care of this, they take care of that, right? Write that down. Then think about, okay, well, if that's me 1 year from now, what will I have to be like 6 months from now, right? Write that down. And then write down who you need to be 3 months from now. Then what your routine should be like 1 month from now. And then write the routine for what you should do for next week. Then write down the routine for tomorrow. Now you have all these different levels, which is going to be very, very motivating. Actually write this down. This is a great technique, right? And write down that routine for yourself for tomorrow and actually try to implement it. You're very likely to crash and burn and fail, but that's fine. That's how we learn, which leads me to principle number 3. So James Clear gives this example, right, in his book Atomic Habits, of the British national team for cycling who didn't win anything for 100 years straight. Okay, so the British national team, they asked this guy for advice. What's his name? Dave Brailsford's advice on how they can win the next Tour de France, right? And so Dave, he introduces this new technique, right? The 1% improvement each day. And he called it the aggregate of marginal gains. Okay, and the 1% improvement were things like simple things like what I'm talking about, right? So they did things like they improved the shirts so that it breathes better and they feel more cool and they're not overheating, right? Or the seats for their bikes have that be just 1% better. Or they improve how they wash their hands so they get less sick, therefore they can practice more and perform better. And after 3 years of doing this, they win the Tour de France and they win 3 Olympic gold medals in a row, right? After not winning anything for 100 years. So this technique alone can move mountains, okay? So, take action. 1% better each day and you can be more than 30 times better by the end of the year. Which leads me to my third principle: quantity creates quality. So like every week, focus on one thing in your routine that you can just kind of bring up one notch, right? Just that 1% improvement in your routine. And it could be like if you notice that you waste an hour in the morning, being in bed on your phone, just put your phone in the living room, right? Before you sleep. Done. That's a 1% improvement right there. A 1% improvement every week is going to lead to like 200% improvement in the next year, right? Because it compounds. So keep it simple and grounded, like it's just I will do X, Y, and Z at this particular time, and look over your routine. And for next week, just pick that one thing that you can just bring up that one notch, right? Just that 1% improvement. If you notice that you're spending too long in bed in the morning because you're on your phone, well, just before you fall asleep, just move your phone over into the living room or wherever, so that when you wake up the next day, you have to get up and go grab your phone, right? That's already a 1% improvement right there. Overthinking, analysis paralysis, these are all signs of that external locus of control, right? So forget all that. Just take immediate action now, follow the routine, and you'll figure it out later. Because failure is guaranteed, right? For me, for you, for everyone. Your PC is going to crash, you're going to lose all your files, you're going to punch your yogurt on the stove and it's going to splatter everywhere. That's life, okay? Like, that was a pain to clean up, by the way. Like, I had to get baking soda on a toothbrush and I had to scrape each individual bit of that yogurt paste. It took hours, right? But that's how you learn, Like, you think I'll ever miss a deadline again? Hell no, right? Pain is the best teacher, but it's once you accept completely that failure is guaranteed, that's when success becomes guaranteed. Bars. So embrace that it's going to happen, right? And just do meaningful work that is productive. So there's this concept of motion versus work. Work is like the actual stuff that gets into the final product, and motion is stuff that kind of keeps you busy, that's kind of related, but it's like it's not very clear how much of it is going to be translated into the final product. Like, for example, research, building a mood board, right? These things are all classified as motion because it's a lot of volume of work and time for a very limited piece of the finished final product, right? So in my case, the work would be like the pages, right? It's like, do you have the pages or not? So because of that, what I focus on in my routine is I storyboard 4 pages. I do the dialogue for all 4 of them. I type it in. And then I finish 1 page, right? I draw it. And that's it. And I do this every day, right? And it's like at the end of the day, it's like, do I have this? Yes or no? And it's simple. And it's sustainable, right? There's no deadline or cookies that I need to motivate me. The motivation's coming from myself. So I can just do this on a daily basis. Just apply these principles and embrace that you're gonna get like some negative feedback along the way, right? So prioritize action over perfection, right? Urgency with action, patience with results. So point 4, and I know like us writer illustrators, right? We're not really known for our extroversion, but they're all people just like you and me, right? We're all weirdos, let's be weird together. What the fuck? Which leads me to principle number 4, right? This is to find peers and mentors in your community. The benefits from this are massive, and there's multiple. So first one is a scientific concept called body doubling, right? Which is, for example, if you're in like a study group and hey, there's an exam coming up next week, let's all meet up at the cafe, right? Well, the very act of you getting your stuff ready and making that trek to the cafe and sitting across from someone, there's that accountability, right? And you will get way more work done that way than if you were sitting at home by yourself for 10 hours, right? And this is what I do now. I have a peer group and we meet 3 times a week. And that's how I wrote the script for this video. That's how I storyboarded my last 2 manga chapters. And it's fun. Like, I get to meet my buddies, you know what I mean? And you get feedback. You grow better this way. And that's the second benefit, right? You get massive, massive growth. Because let's say there's 4 of you, right? And you're all trying to make manga together. Now, if you're by yourself and you make a mistake, you learn that lesson. But if there's 4 of you, if someone else makes a mistake, the other 3 of you all learn that same lesson, right? So you're basically growing 4 times faster because every time someone else makes a mistake, everybody gets to learn from that mistake. Rather than if you're by yourself, you learn a little bit, right? Every time you make a mistake, but then someone else makes a mistake somewhere else and you're not learning from that at all. So again, it's like that network effect of the 4 of you helping each other out. The benefits of that are massive. And this is what I do now for everything. Like last year I picked up Muay Thai, right? And I thought it would be just like a random thing I did for that year and I would just move on. But it's like, it's for life now. It's what I do. I found someone I can learn from that knows way more than me. So I put my ego aside. I just do what they tell me. And a year later, I'm way, way better, right? And this is like a mental checklist I go through every single time. It's like find mentor, find peer group, lock in a routine with them, and then just coast and enjoy yourself. If you're constantly forcing yourself to do things, it's because you lost touch with that inner locus of control, right? So ask yourself, are you having fun anymore? If you don't know, it's because you lost touch with that inner compass, right? So if you're asking me questions like, hey, I've been doing this for 3 years. Should I quit? Should I switch careers? It's like, I don't know, bro. What do you think? If you can't answer that, you need to sort that out for yourself. No one else can do that for you, you know? If you're not doing what you want while you're alive, then what the hell is the point? I've linked some great resources below that have helped me reconnect with my internal compass. And you could have like a few months free flowing experimentation where you try out a lot of new stuff, completely clean slate, new routine, new everything, and see what speaks to you. In my case, I came back to this, my passion, full force, but I reassessed my priorities, right? So you're going to need to reassess your priorities.